RCMP in Manitoba and the Canadian Border Services Agency recently announced the largest narcotic seizure in history on the Prairies. RCMP say the $50 million meth bust was the equivalent to 4 million doses. But busts like this could have unintended consequences. For more on that, we're joined by Vinnie Lillie, who himself is a former addict and gang member and is now a motivational speaker, author, and member of the Downtown Community Safety Partnership in Winnipeg. Vinnie, appreciate you taking some time for us here. On the surface, you know, a $50 million drug seizure sounds like great news, but we know that there can be some unintended consequences. So what came to your mind when you heard about this latest bust?
Well, I mean, obviously, it can definitely have its major benefits in order for them to make the seizure. But yeah, I work the front lines and stuff in the shelters and on the streets and stuff, so I can kind of see a lot of the other effects that it might have when it comes to a seizure, especially with that size.
Like you mentioned, you work directly with some of the most vulnerable and people who have addictions issues in Winnipeg. What would be some of the concerns about huge meth bust like this?
Well, I mean, speaking from firsthand knowledge, I know for a fact that even for me, when it came to my addiction, I'm like, you know, like I had my drug of choice, and when that drug of choice wasn't around, I ended up switching to whatever it was that was around. And so a lot of the time that when that happens is that's what the addicts do, is that they switch to another drug if they don't have another drug to get high off of. So then that's what's happening when there's no meth. These people are switching to other drugs, and then what happens is now one of the main drugs that's taking over is the heroin and the down, and so then they end up switching to that. And then obviously, I know that meth is a really bad drug, and it really does affect you mentally quite a bit. But I don't believe that you can overdose or die from it unless it's mixed with something else. So then what happens is when they switch to the other drug, which is like heroin or down, there's a lot more opportunity for them to overdose and to die.
When these big busts happen, Vinnie, and this one, the RCMP says will likely have an impact not just on Manitoba, but Western Canada, parts of Ontario. Well, what do you think could be done to alleviate some of these unintended consequences?
Well, I guess it's a sad reality that there really isn't much that can really be done, because the truth of the matter is that when this kind of size of seizure happens, the suicide rate will go up, the crime rate will go up, the overdose rate will go up, and so it's really hard to even reach these people, even on a one-to-one basis. And so that's the sad reality, is that there really isn't much that can be done. And then the people who are involved in the addictions, they have to really feel the consequences of what it is that comes with the lacking of the drug.
Vinnie, it's only been about a week since the bust was announced, but what are you seeing out on the streets here in Winnipeg?
I mean, honestly, the people who are affected by this, who are involved in the addiction, they already have enough struggles as it is on their own, especially if they're involved in being homeless. It's just crazy. But then I'm seeing that people are talking and they know the effects that's going to happen, and they see it because they're not being able to find what they need. And so what happens is they're already living their lives in survival mode, and to elevate that anymore is just causing them to be in more of a heightened state of survival mode, which then just causes more intense critical thinking that's just not logical, and then that just really affects their behavior. And so the behavior that I see is very uncontrollable and erratic as it is when it comes to the heightened emotions. But then when you throw all that on top of that again, it just gets so much more deeper and more intense.
Vinnie, we'll leave it there, but appreciate you sharing some of your experiences with us.
Thank you very much for having me.